The Padres are finally making some moves, signing pitchers from the U.S. as well as Korea. We'll talk about all of that and more tonight on Padres Talking Padres. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Padres Talking Padres, your favorite podcast hosted exclusively by fathers. My name is Jay, and with me tonight, some of the finest Padres I know, Jack and Jerry. Gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Great.
I'm surprised to see Jack actually using his name. I mean,
Every now and then. Actually, I don't really need to do the podcast because Jerry already said what he had to say before we started recording.
I did not. I'm
done. I mean, it won't be a surprise to me.
Jerry was joking before we went live. I have this policy of actually, this goes back to Jack and I. We've been podcasting for 20 years this year, by the way. Jack, I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but 20 years of doing this, and generally we have a policy of don't talk about the topic until we're live. Save it for the show. And Jerry broke my cardinal.
I did not. No, I did not. But as my wife will attest, I have plenty of ammunition. So
no shortage of.
I will have no
never
shortage
at a
of
loss
talking
for
from
words.
my side.
Is that the saying?
That's it.
Oh my goodness. Hey, making moves. Wow, didn't know we had that option available to us.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's funny because on Twitter, the day before they signed
Pivetta,
someone with said Padres are close to reaching a deal with Pivetta, and I went, let me look at, and I looked at the account. It had the blue check, but anyone can have a blue check.
Well, yeah, you just buy those now.
You just pay for it. It only had like 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then the next day, I'm watching the show. I'm also on Twitter, and I go, huh. The person was right. I can't remember who it was though, so I can't give him credit. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably taking a victory lap on Twitter if you wanted to see it. But so I mean, I guess I kind of knew Nick Pivetta, but I don't like actually know him. Like, how good of a signing is this for the Padres?
I think it's a real good signing. If you look at Pivetta, I've known him. Well, he's been in the big leagues for 8 years.
I had coffee with him last night.
Yeah, he had 3 years with the Phillies that were pretty poor, to be quite honest.
Yes, I've read that. Yeah.
And then he came over to the Red Sox, and his first couple of years, just kind of like just kind of a guy to throw out there. But the last 2 years has been generally a lot better. It's his, I believe it's 29 and 30 years, which, for most people, that's you're hitting your prime, as they say in sports at 28 to 31 is usually what most people target as your prime years. So I think that there's two things that I knew about Pivetta and then you research and you're like, okay, I was pretty right on that. The one thing is I knew he had a tendency with a long ball. And quite honestly, that I think that has more to do with where he's been pitching than anything. Being in Boston and being
Philly.
Even in Philly, with the warm weather there. But the other thing is then you start getting a little bit deeper and you realize, wow, this guy strikes out 4-1 on his walk ratio, which, hey, if you listen to most of our telecasts last year, you'd say that was probably our number one complaint is the walks that were ahead of the hits and picking.
Right.
And then the third thing I found out is a lot of it is due to the fact that he started developed a sweeper that was much better. And then you hear after the signing that part of this is Niebla has worked with him already. And that's what enticed him to come over to the Padres.
Really? I didn't hear. I didn't know that.
I didn't hear that.
I'd heard that he saw some things and impressed Pivetta with things that he could work on and things that he could improve. So, that's not surprising because I know when it comes to pitching, I don't really know what the whole background is, but you got to believe that Niebla joins the scouting group and takes a look at a guy, or he looks at film
Sure.
before they're
I
going to
would
make
think
any
so,
kind
yeah.
of commitment, So yeah, I think it's a great signing. I was talking to my son the other day, and he was kind of saying, yeah, this is about the last guy that you really want, and I'm like you guys, I'm sure. I didn't think there was a way for us to do it. I thought the only way to do it was if they traded Cease or Suarez and put some money in the bank that they would be able to go and get him. And even then, I thought it was far-fetched. I'm sure you guys probably thought the same thing. But hey, this is that Preller magic. And I will say, and I was about ready to say to Jack before you came on and we started, I said last week, you got to wait until the season starts before you make a judgment on the offseason.
Sure, absolutely.
And this is Preller again. Some people call it bargain basement. I call it smart negotiations.
Absolutely, because I mean, if you think about it, clearly, it seemed, we don't know for sure, because again, to your point, the season hasn't started yet, but it seems like we're holding on to Cease, we're holding on to King, maybe even holding on to Suarez. And so at least it seems that they're comfortable going over the first CBT threshold.
Right.
And so, if that's the case and we hold all of our pitchers, I think this is great. Nick Pivetta as a 4 pitcher is phenomenal. And the other guy we got today, I guess, or yesterday is Hart is another one. But yeah, I think to that point, it is the smart signing because it's not flashy, but if Nebula can kind of pull off his magic, his Ruben magic, then yeah, I think this could be a really great pickup.
Well, it's going to help him pitching in Petco.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean that has to help, number one. And well, I remembered, I said, wait, didn't we blast this guy out of the sky last year when we played him? Which I think we did. But then he did shut out the Dodgers. 6-0, struck out Ohtani, 3 times, 4 times?
Got with the high cheese.
Yeah, he's got the stuff.
Right.
I just think like you have Nebula look, he fixed Snell. I don't care what people say. Snell was a mess.
Yes.
When he got to the Padres, Nebula fixed him, and he's fixed a lot of pitchers. Yeah. Look at Lugo and look at Waka. Those guys were not. They're much better pitchers when they left than when they got here.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not sitting there saying, "Oh, this guy's Cy Young," but he doesn't have to be.
Exactly.
He's got a live arm. He looks like he throws a lot of innings, and you can't have enough pitching.
And Perler has even said that you're always looking for more pitching, and you brought up a good point too, Jack. Is not that that's everything, but he's an innings eater. He's a reliable innings eater, and to me, it still goes with philosophy. The further down in your rotation you get to until you get to question marks, the better. Yeah. And to me, we are down to number 5 being a question mark, not 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And I feel pretty comfortable with Waldron and Vasquez filling that role. And now we've got this Hart kid that's going to come back. We're going to stretch out Kolig. You never know what it's going to end up being, but you start feeling a little bit more confident about it. We have a solid bullpen. I think, and today we in conversations with Schilt, he pretty much said Arise is going to play first base. He's our first baseman this year.
Yeah.
And I think there was probably a lot of conversation over last year with all the conflict of who's playing where and flexibility. And I think the players, I don't know, maybe they just kind of got together and said, hey, Schulte, we'd really like to play like one position as much as possible.
I'm sure Cronenworth is that because I don't care what people say. It affects his hitting.
Oh, absolutely.
Back and forth. I mean, it's a mental game, and you just can't keep going back and forth. And plus, he's our best second baseman, so he should be playing there. I think Gavin Sheets will get another pickup we picked up. He's got some power. Yeah.
I don't think the Padres are going to go with a traditional DH either.
No.
From what Schilt said today at spring training, I really got the feeling like, look, we're going to give guys days off, but that he flat out said those 4 are the core of our infield. That's it. Like he kind of that's a pretty much as pronounced as I've seen Schilt say. These 4 are regular infielders. Yeah.
I'd like to find a better first baseman, but as of now,
Yeah.
Well, okay, so today, I think it was today, because Preller was took questions from the media.
Yeah.
In that they asked him, like, are Connor, Joe, Sheets, blanking on the other, Hayward, are they your solution at DH or what have you? And I think what he said was kind of telling in that they're kind of our, good veteran presence, and if one of them pops, that's great, kind of like Profar was for us last year. But I'm still looking for an actual person that can DH and kind of be at that level. So it's I think they're still looking for an impact bat, and Jerry, I don't know if you're paying attention, like who's still left on the market, but I assume there's a higher impact bat than
JD Martinez.
He's so old.
Yeah.
He's ancient.
It's pretty thin. I'll be honest with you. The last time I looked was about 4 days ago, and I'm sure about 5 or 6 of them are already gone. If I went back and looked, I remember looking and going, "It's getting pretty thin." It's Iglesias is really the only guy, but after that is not a whole lot, and he's more of an infielder, utility kind of guy that we could use on our team. I mean, he's probably a regular shortstop if he goes someplace else, but with us, there's not a whole lot left. So I even told Aaron, I was like, well, what would you think about if they went and got Anthony Rizzo? And he goes, Dad, he's had better days. I mean, it's.
I looked at him. His last 2 seasons have been a severe drop off. So
and he played at Yankee Stadium being left-handed. Obviously, that's an advantage that he wouldn't have in San Diego. So, but yeah, I don't know. We've our failed experiment 2 years ago was Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter playing DH, and I don't know if you really need one. And don't you guys think though, with kind of, and I don't want to make it sound like our guys are decrepit and old and everything, but they're in their 30s, and they're starting needing a few more days off, and so you got Manny, and you've got Bogarts, and you got some guys that, those two specifically that could probably use a breather every once in a while. So it's good to have a DH spot that you can kind of rotate in, because the one thing that when we had Cruz and Carpenter is that all they did. That's all they could do. So when you try to give somebody a blow, then there was, well, then that means we can't play our regular DH. So
yeah, exactly. So it's maybe there's not much on the free agent, but is there something in trade as well? Maybe that we could pull off. Who knows?
Well, I think the only chip left, in my opinion, is Suarez. I really think that's the only place that they could go. I don't think there's been a big demand for him, quite honestly. And I don't know, spring training seems like an awfully late time to start looking for a closer or make a deal on a closer. Usually, spring training time, you're looking for that 5th starter, or maybe a bullpen guy that further down the line. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, another problem with Suarez,
where they have the most depth.
Another problem with Suarez, it'd be like a rental too, because he hasn't opted out.
Yeah, and
season, so that's what people are. I guess the Cease holdup was people are like going, well, he's just a rental. I go, well, if you want to win your division, I mean, I don't see them trading Cease unless they get blown away by an offer.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone offers them, I mean, you'd be honest with you, you'd be probably stupid to not take it if it's one of those things where you get 2 great prospects.
Sure.
Because he is there's no way we're signing him next year.
Right.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those philosophical things, guys. It's like you sit there and say, okay, to your point, Jack, I have Dylan Cease sitting here. I can get 30 starts out of this guy, right? And if I'm a good team or a great team, that's still an addition that looks really promising for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But if I'm a good team and a great team right now, don't I already kind of have the closer thing sewed up? So what middle to lower team is going to want a closer when they're not even sure they're going to make the playoffs?
Have the Orioles gotten a closer? Like, I feel like they've been searching for a closer for a while.
Batista's back, right? Batista is his name.
Yeah.
I think he's coming off Tommy John, so you don't know how good he's going to be.
We saw how Craig Kimbrell did for them, and it didn't.
Yeah, you can always use a top-notch reliever. You can never have enough. I mean, you saw last year with the Padres and the Dodgers. The Dodgers proved you can never have enough relievers. You keep bringing these guys in. But like I agree. Like, but I was saying like Dylan Cease. I said, if I'm a team, like the Mets or the Cubs, and I go, I'm kind of going all in with some of the moves we've made this year. Do I go out and get a Dylan Cease? But again, I don't want to trade him. I hope the Padres keep him at least till the All-Star break, and they go. It'd be like that decision a couple of years ago when they had Snell and Hader. They kept them and didn't trade him because well, in hindsight, yeah, but they were making a run they were only 2 games out at the end. The goal is to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if you can keep Cease, even if you don't keep him next year, and they can make the playoffs and maybe have a better run this year or whatever.
Give him a qualified offer and then get the pick.
Yeah, and I think you keep him.
I've said it many times, guys. Cease is going to be just as valuable at the All-Star break. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, if not more valuable, because then you got teams pitting against each other on who gets the crown jewel, so to speak. If you're going to the playoffs, I don't think that Preller is even thinking about that. And I don't think he needs me to clear it up, but he said it more than once. If people call, I'm going to listen.
Absolutely.
So I almost get a little steamed watching people post like, they're trying to no. He's said it so many times. If people call, I'll listen. That doesn't mean you're actively trying to trade Cease, actively trying to trade King or Suarez. He's listening.
If you're actively trying to trade someone, you have no leverage.
Yeah, exactly.
So Preller is known in the baseball realm as kind of putting these lofty trades out there and just saying, look, if you'll bite at that, then we got a deal.
Yeah.
But most people kind of laugh at him, and it's like, well, kind of reminds me of a guy we used to have in our fantasy baseball league, Jack, that would throw these 3-for-1 trades, and you'd laugh at him and everything. Yeah. But doggone it, somewhere down the line, he got 2-for-1 because he got you thinking about 3-for-1, and then he got you 2-for-1, and you kind of look back and say, well, why did I make that deal? Like,
But what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
What was it related to? Preller?
It was what we're talking about. I guess the rumors came out that he with the Mets, I think it was the Mets, he wanted all this top-notch talent for Cease, and they were like going, no, we're not going to trade you that. And he said, okay, I'm not making the trade. Yeah. So, I mean, what they said, this is what he asked for. And a lot of teams, like I guess the Cubs, he said he's asked for a lot. Why not?
Yeah,
we don't have to trade him right now.
Exactly.
We don't have to trade him.
Well, that was a point that was made on our local radio station today. And the one guy I respect, he put it the same way. He said, look, now the teams look and they see the Padres have Pivetta, and they're building that staff. They know that Preller is in a very strong position now. He doesn't have to trade him now. He didn't have to. Never did anyway. But he really doesn't now. So I think that's kind of the hallmark of Preller, though.
Yeah.
He deals really good from a position of strength. He knows what other teams want, and again, he'll listen.
And he knows talent.
He knows talent, man.
Yes, he does.
And another thing with Cease too is you see him in the offseason. He's been at Aztec games with other Padres. He's been hanging out with other Padres and stuff like that. I mean, he's part of the team, and that's what you want. And I mean, like I said, if we could sign him, that would be great. But I don't see how we could sign both him and King. But who knows? Yeah.
I kind of felt the same way though, Jack. But my lesson comes from Blake Snell. I thought the exact same thing with Blake Snell. I thought, man, if there's ever going to be a guy that's going to give a San Diego discount, it's going to be Blake Snell.
I'm not saying he's going to give a San Diego discount.
No, I know, but I mean, I really thought, okay, he really likes it here. He wants to be here. But it really comes down to it. Look at Profar, same thing. I really want to be there. Yeah, for 3 years for $42 million. No, it's not going to happen. If you really wanted to be here,
I get it. I get it though. You played for $1 million the year before. Yeah. I mean, Snell played.
I don't blame actually either of them. Like Profar, he deserved that kind of money. Yeah,
I'm not blaming them, Jay. I'm just saying these guys have a very tight clubhouse. But you know what? I watch the Dodgers, some of the Dodger stuff. They've got a very tight clubhouse. You go to the Orioles, they've got a very tight clubhouse. Everybody's got a tight clubhouse and everything. And Preller even talked about it, and Schilt even talked about how people need to recognize how much of a family this team is and everything. It's like, okay, cool. That's great. You can go to work and you get to hang around with the buddies, and maybe that makes you perform a little bit better. But look, money's money, and these guys know that it's a business. And you know what? For an extra $10 million, I think I can find my way to Timbuktu, and I'll be happy there too.
Oh yeah, but see, my point is the reason I would keep a guy like Cease for this season too. It's again, he's part of, and he fits right in. And if you're going to make a run at, I want to see the Padres make a run at the play. It's more fun to watch a team that's competing than a team that sucks. We all know that. And so with Cease, we got a better chance to compete than without him.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to argue that.
I'm saying if he was I'm trying to think of a pitcher that like a Stroman who seems to have issues with his teammates and stuff like that. Okay, Stroman. Okay, yeah, I'm going to trade him probably, even though he's a good pitcher. I'm thinking, okay, he messes up team chemistry. I know Judge had to have a talk with him because he goes, oh, hey, we don't do this in New York. He was criticizing players while he was pitching and stuff. There's certain guys, let's face it, there's certain guys in the league that don't fit, Unless
Josh Hader, very clearly.
Josh Hader. Unless they're a superstar, and you can go, okay, I can overlook that because he's a superstar. But, this season, if we don't have to trade Cease, I like him. I like watching him pitch. He's frustrating at times, but I do like watching him pitch.
Yep, I agree. Let's talk about Kyle Hart, the pickup from the KBO. He won this past year's KBO equivalent of the Cy Young Award. He pitched for the Red Sox for a few games in 2020. I don't think he did too hot, but I believe I was listening to an interview with him today where he talked about and credited his pitching coaches helping him develop a sweeper. He's changed his arm angle too, I guess. Yes, his arm slot and stuff like that. Another pickup. I think as we talked about at the beginning of this show, fighting for in the 5 spot. Gentlemen, what do we think about this pickup?
Yeah, I don't pretend to know him that well. Obviously, he made a transition. He had I like his attitude. He basically said, people are probably wondering, what was this guy doing in the big league? I'm embarrassed if anybody goes to Instagram and sees my baseball stats for, my 4 starts and 11 ERA and all that kind of stuff. But he's obviously there's been a few guys that have gone to the KBO or, overseas and have had success there and then came back and turned that in. I'm not looking for the guy to be a stud. I think he's going to be a good pitcher. Maybe, I think it's a good situation for him because he doesn't have to come over and be the big producer right off the bat. He's obviously very hungry, and sometimes that makes for a good ball player. But
he's left-handed.
I don't know.
He's
left-handed. Which would satisfy my urge to for the last 3 years. Well, excuse me, since Blake Snell left. To have a lefty on staff, it's kind of nice, to have somebody that throws the other way, But yeah, it is a little bit of the bargain basement. You're looking for guys that could possibly, and you could put Hayward in there, you could put Connor Joe in there, Hart and Ornella, it's just, to me, you throw it all at the wall and you see what sticks, and then you figure out, that's where Schilt comes in and he makes his judgments and figures out who's going to stay. So,
I'm like you guys. I heard about him because a couple of weeks ago, someone on Padre Twitter posted something. Why does it Preller go after this guy? And I'm like going. Then I looked him up. I go, okay, he played for a few games in 2020. This is like 2 weeks ago. And I saw they signed him, and I'm like, it's a low risk, I think, because of the contract.
Yeah.
If he makes it, great. That's gravy. You can, like I said, and he's left-handed. We could use a left-hander.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
I think the best thing about
no-lose situation. If he makes it, he makes it.
Yeah. The best thing about it is one of the few contracts that has the club option for the
Yes.
second year.
Yeah.
So if he ends up being a stud, let's just say, they find the gym and he ends up being a 12-game winner and a 4 ERA, you got a $5 million pitcher next year.
Yeah.
So I think that goes to show that going over international, sometimes you might get a better deal because these guys are hungry. It's like, hey, I was in the show, I want to come back.
Yep.
And I'll take whatever you're willing to pay me, because I'm not making that kind of money over there. So,
and you got to think about with him too. He's got to be thinking too. If I don't make it here, I can always go back to Korea next year.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's, but it just, again, I don't know what they make over there, but I'm sure it's not, well, obviously nothing close to.
Well, again, if you make it if MLB, that's where you want to be, right? Like,
right. I'm just saying though, I'm gonna take it like Jerry said. I'm gonna take another run at it. I'm hungry.
Yeah,
I want to be a major league pitcher. If he makes it, great.
Yeah.
If not, like some people are like, oh my god, I'm like going. It's just a guy. I mean,
you don't need. If you're keeping Cease, you're keeping King. You've added Pivetta. You have Darvish. Like the world isn't on his shoulders, right? You have Waldron, who said he's going to increase his knuckleball usage. Like you said, you're stretching out Kolek. You've got Vasquez. Like you got the world isn't on his shoulders.
I like Vasquez, but it's like it's not even mentioned a lot. But I was like, okay, but
guy had over 20 starts for us last year.
Yeah, I like Vasquez, but
I like Vasquez and Waldron.
Absolutely,
they both had good stretches. So
I like people on. But when they mentioned Kolek as being stretched out, people on Padre, this is before they started signing people, just lost. I go, what's the harm in him just seeing? I go, what are we getting upset about? I go, he's blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like going, you don't know.
Plus, you need the depth, like, because again, Darvish is older. Like, he was out for long stretches of the. I mean, Waldron kind of saved us because he was.
Well, really Darvish was out because of family issue.
Sure, but he first went out because he had a hamstring or something.
Right,
like
that's
that,
right. Yeah,
like he had a. So I mean,
it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the bottom line is it doesn't even matter age-wise. Obviously, if you're older, it's possibly a little bit more. Can you bring the picture back? I feel like I'm looking sideways at every time I'm talking.
Sure, absolutely.
There we go. I'm looking at you guys now. No, depth is so important. I mean, you go back even the last couple of years with the Padres, they've gone at least 8 deep, even the last couple of years. So you're always going to have the guy that has to miss a start or miss 2 starts, and then sometimes, unfortunately, you get somebody that goes down for a month or whatever. You just can't live with just 5 guys and just say. And then you have also days, and I haven't looked at the schedule, but I'd heard that Schilt mentioned that they're going to be able to go with the 5-man rotation to begin because they have a lot of Thursdays off. And remember last year, that was kind of one of those good things that worked for them last year. Worked good for us too because we do Thursday nights. But there was a stretch there for about, I think, 5 out of the 6 weeks they had Thursdays off. And so I understand. Again, I did not look at the schedule, but they tend to have some Thursdays off at the beginning. So they're not going to have to go through one of those 22 games in a row off the bat, kind of thing. So,
well, another issue too is people forget 2020, 2021, and maybe even 2022. We had injuries from our pitching staff, and we had we were.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
Arrieta.
Arrieta. That was the.
God.
And who was that left-hander? Is like 1,000 years old.
Rich Hill.
Rich Hill. Yeah.
I mean, that's the guys we were bringing in to replace him. And I'm like, and to be fair, the minor league system right now doesn't have a lot of young starting pitching ready to come up. There's some bullpen guys, but not start. I mean, because we've made a lot of trades, and we've traded a lot of players.
Why we haven't signed Quantrill back? Because I feel like he saw.
No,
he
went to the Marlins.
Oh, did he? Damn. I would have liked.
Well, so here you bring up a point because there was a couple things I wanted to talk about, and that was one of them. I think the thing that I'm the most happy about is that we're not using our farm system to get more players. That's why I'm even more in favor of the bargain basement, or you want to call it, getting Connor Joe and Hayward and guys like that. We need to build that back up again. And I'd like to see it come to fruition too, not just more trade bait. Like, let's actually get some guys, into the majors, because the one good thing we have going for us is because of the deals that were made. And to all those Dodger fans who were, grinning and smiling about all the deferred contract, a deferred contract is not paying them more at the end of the season. A deferred contract is when you pay them at the end of the contract.
You pay
10
well,
years.
Well, made a good
now,
point. You pay them when they're not. You pay them when they're not playing anymore.
Exactly, or playing for you anymore. So, but the way they front loaded them, because next year they've got a little bit more latitude, and then 2027 is when it starts getting a little itchy. And that's, to me, kind of the target date. You need to have some people coming out of your farm system, because that's when the first big step of Tatis comes in, and Machado.
Yeah. And
I believe in 2027 or 28, I can't remember which one, but between the three big ones, they're going to be 100 million.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my take on it's nice to me that they got these minor deals done so that we can let that farm system be for a while.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's take a look.
I don't wait. Jose, we talked about could they renegotiate those contracts where they maybe let's defer some of that. I mean, could they help themselves down the road, or would they do that?
Well, it costs you more because again, this goes back to what's the difference between deferred money and what you have to do within your own investments, right? So if you defer money, you have to put money in, quasi bank account, so that it will be equal to the money that will be there. You can't wait till the end of the contract and say, oh, well, let's go get $100 million because we owe this guy $100 million starting in, whatever year.
Right.
So that's where deep pocket owners can make out with deferred contract, i.e. the Dodgers.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just wondering if there's something they could do or,
But it always costs you more, Jack. That's the problem. And the one thing about, you're going to pay for it sooner or later. And right now, I think the Padres kind of overindulged with those big contracts. And believe it or not, right now is not when they're paying for it. It's 3 years from now. 3 years from now, they're going to be paying for it. And
they keep saying Major League Baseball is going to have a streaming service. It's going to be all the teams are going to make more money somehow. I've seen people talk. 2028 it won't be ready until 20. I don't know what the people. I've just seen bits and pieces of it on Twitter where people are talking, and I'm like going, could we have that now? If it's such a big deal, why are we waiting for 3 years?
I think they're waiting for like some contracts to lapse. I assume.
I heard a very interesting topic. I had to take a drive last night to take care of something, and it's late night radio host. I mean, and I've heard the guy a few times before, but he had an interesting take on the state of baseball and the lopsidedness of it, so to speak. The six rich teams, as he called it, versus the rest of the league. And he says, nothing is going to change. He says, I'm going to tell you right now, here's what I'm going to say. You need to hope that the Dodgers win the next 10 World Series, because that's the only way it's going to change. You need to piss off the other 5 rich teams. That's the only way this is going to change. Because right now it's kind of like going back and forth between the 5-6 richest teams. Very well, every once in a while there's a Kansas City Royal, team. But for the most part, it's going between those 5 and 6. So if the only way it's ever going to change is if one of those teams, right now it'd be the Dodgers, wins so many in a row that the Mets, the Yankees, and the Red Sox, and everybody gets pissed off at them and says, well, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Well, I was listening.
They don't care if it's between the 6 of them. It's when it starts getting outside of that.
Right. I was listening to baseball on the morning show on baseball and satellite, and there was, I think it was Steve Phillips, who's saying, "Oh, the Dodgers, what they're doing is great for baseball, great for baseball." Then he was bashing the Orioles for not, they got a new owner, and they didn't spend any money. He goes, they let this guy go, this guy go. I mean, they let a lot of talent go, but they have a strong farm system, so they think they can replace it. He goes, you got to spend money to make the World Series. So all this time he's been saying, these teams, So I was like going, okay, you just said weeks ago that what the Dodgers do is great for baseball. What the Yankees are doing is great for baseball. And he was talking about how the Red Sox are finally spending money because they signed Bregman, and it's great for baseball. But then he said, you maybe once in a while you have a fluke like Kansas City, because they always say parity. Well, Kansas City came in there and won it, but you don't win the World Series unless you spend money.
Mm-hmm.
I go, that's the problem. Nobody can spend as much money as those 6 teams. They just can't.
Yeah.
And I go, it's funny how these guys, they'll say one thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a politician.
Well,
And
it's
you're
just
going-
you gotta remember, like they're no different than us sitting here in our rooms right now talking about base. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're just coming up with talking
Phillips
points.
was a general manager,
And he was a terrible general manager.
Again, but he worked in the field.
That's why he works for MLB.
Again, trust me, we've all worked for jobs. There's a lot of idiots in the world. I just can't.
It just bugs me when people do that. It's like, the Dodgers, even with all the
Just because they work somewhere doesn't mean they know what they're talking about.
Their payroll is $370 million. It just went up because they signed Kike Hernandez and Kershaw.
Yeah.
But I'm like going, oh my God. And they already have 2 guys that are hurt. 2 guys that are
they're relievers,
relievers that are on the IL.
Well, let's talk about the schedule, right? So yesterday, pitchers and catchers did their first workout, and then next week, so we've got
exciting.
It's exciting.
I got a
Things
little
are moving
tingling
and shaking.
in my fingers.
First full squad workout is on Monday, and then next Friday, first game versus the Mariners, a twofer.
If we don't win them both, the season's over.
So next week we'll have our first predictions for spring training. Who cares? But it'll be fun to get it rolling. And then Jerry, you were talking about a lot of Thursdays off. Doesn't happen in March. It actually happens in April. But the season officially starts. When does it officially start? Is it 27th?
27th, yeah.
Yeah, 27th. So
of March?
Of March. Yep. My birthday. Look at that. We should go to that.
Happy 42nd.
So it starts on a Thursday, but then in April, all the Thursdays off.
Well, I mean, so they played 9 games, and then they have a Thursday off, a Thursday off, a Thursday off, a Thursday. I mean,
exactly. So after that,
that's great for your pitching staff.
Absolutely.
Early on. You don't want to get overloaded.
In May, I'll be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So will I. Wow.
What?
Maybe we'll see you there.
Wait, what a coincidence.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. All right. Well, that's about, gentlemen, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap things up here?
Well, the other thing I want to talk about with the Padres is, and it was brought up, one of their strengths is their how stationary they are as far as having that core group and everything. The stability, that's the word I was looking for. And that seems to be a plus, because I heard a couple of guys, Elias Diaz said it, as well as Gavin Sheets. And I know these guys are fighting for a job, and so they're probably, but they openly, without being asked the question, just said, I think this is where I want to be, because I think this team's got something to play for, and I think this team's got the components to do it, And so sometimes that kind of gets overlooked, the fact that, yes, we, myself included, bemoan some of these long-term contracts that the Padres have and everything. But then as an outsider coming in, it's got to be exciting to, walk into the clubhouse and see Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, Darvish, Musgrove, Cronenworth, and just know that, hey, these guys are going to be here for the next 4 to 5 years. I mean, that's a comfortable feeling, knowing you're walking into an environment that's not going to change a lot. And again, all of us have been working stiffs at one time, and we understand, what that means if you're going into a harried situation and you're going, crap, I don't know anybody here,
exactly.
And
if they are here, they're not going to be here long.
Yeah, they're not going to be here long, and yet
it's not like the old school Padres where they always left.
Well, and the old school Padres, and again, I think a lot of people who have followed the Yankees, I'm not pointing on them like it's a bad thing, but if you've been a Yankee fan or a Met fan or a Dodger fan, you've had that stability for a long time. So I think you take it for granted that, us guys who've been watching the Padres since '69, it's like it wasn't until the recent years that we've actually had guys that we say, hey, they're going to be back next year.
Yeah.
All right.
Tony Gwynn was it.
Or Tony Gwynn was that one guy, and that's where it went for years. That one guy was the guy, whether it was Phil Nevin or Ryan Klesko or, Will Myers when he first started here. It was like okay, there's my one guy. You guys got 12, but we got one. You know,
The Dodgers had the same infield for like 10 years.
as long as than that, it was 15 years.
Was it 15
yeah,
years?
With
They
Say
had
and
Garvey,
Say
Lopes, and Russell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, who's going to be our first? Oh, I mean, you don't understand that stability. That's incredible for a team to have that kind of stability.
And that's what's cool about, like, again, that was Peter Seiler's vision, right? It's just like people want to know that their favorite player is going to be on the team and will be on the team for a while. And it's kind of cool when, 2020 is now 5 years ago, believe it or not, half a decade ago. And kind of the, some of the best players from that team and, Machado, Cronenworth, Tatis, Darvish was 21, but still, like, you have that carryover, and it just it makes for a more I don't know, impactful fan experience, which is clearly true because we have some of the best attendance in the league.
That was
when you're
go ahead.
Especially when you're talking about merchandise, nothing's worse than, hey, I'm gonna get me a Tatis jersey.
Yeah.
He got traded 2 months later. Oh, that sucks.
It was interesting you brought up the attendance, and it's not that we don't know it, but again, local Dodger fan came on, but they I forget what it was. I think it was MLB put out the attendance, and the Padres are number one in terms of capacity to the stadium.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're at 103.1%, which means that the park at the park gets sold out a lot, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, some Dodger fans like, oh, I could have sworn that the Dodgers led Major League Baseball in attendance. It's like,
they don't.
I was nice because I felt like saying, do you know not how to read? Because it said according to percentages of capacity of the ballpark.
Exactly. And there's empty seats at Dodger Stadium. Dodger Stadium is, since Yankee Stadium, isn't the biggest baseball stadium by like seat availability.
Yeah, I don't pretend to know that. I know they can go to about 58,000 or something like that.
And they're remodeling it, so
they're putting the dugouts down lower or something like that.
Reducing the seats maybe too.
Yeah.
Tamara Gladfelter says that's why we heard they weren't selling Profar jerseys.
Could be. But that's the only thing I will say about the stability is that needs to resonate within our minor leagues to know that these guys are working for something to get there. Yeah. And I will say they got a great team. The Dodgers got a great team. There's no doubt about it, right? But I was telling Jack, I think it was the one that you couldn't make. It's like what would it feel like to be in the Dodgers farm system?
Well, absolutely.
Now? Yeah.
Like where am I going to go? They've got every position sewn up for the next 5 years. Yep. I think that's another benefit of just filling in some holes with some $1 million guys, and allowing those guys that hopefully are Norlis and some of those pitchers that are coming in from A ball right now and maybe going to Double A this year. Give them some hope that there's a spot for me when I get there. I don't mind working for it, but geez, if you've already got your infield set, for the next 10 years, what am I going to do? I mean, DeVries probably already feels that way a little bit.
Yeah. Everyone forgets how good Connor Joe was on Petticoat Junction.
I love Connor Joe. He's a Poway kid, He's a hometown kid.
He's moving kind of slow at the junction.
He was with Betty Joe, Bobby Joe.
Oh,
but if you got to go back and watch it.
Yeah,
but anyway,
you only touched on the boomers there, bud.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I know. But the thing with you were talking about Gavin Sheets. The interview I saw, it's almost like he was. It was like Bull Durham. I go that he Crash was giving him because he said all the right things, and like you said, he came into he's looking around the locker room, and he comes in here. He goes, because I really wanted to be, because he came from the White Sox.
Sure.
And nobody wants to be. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you're making. You don't want to be on a team like the White Sox that has no chance to wins 50, whatever it was, 50 games.
The images of that kid the Dodgers traded over there, and just him just looking like
why?
Life.
Why? Because I don't at any level of any sport, playing Little League. I've been on teams that just didn't win. It's like, and I love going to the games and playing, but it's like, oh my God, we're going to go get our butts kicked again today. No, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
And for his attitude was like, I come to a team that was so good last year, and I come and I look around, I go, look at all these superstars. Yeah. I can provide some power. He said, I'll provide some power when I'm in there, some left-handed power. He goes, but I don't have to be the guy.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the main guy. And so that might help him, like you were saying earlier with Pavetta. He doesn't have to be that guy. He's the, he's just the guy that comes in. And so I'm kind of, I don't know, whatever he said, it was like, I know it's just spring training. It's his first time. And I go, I love this guy. I love this kid.
Well, I think the biggest comment for me, and like you said, it could have been a Bull Durham moment for all we know, but it always sounds sincere, but he's just, look, what's your role? And he got asked, what's your role? And he goes, whatever they need me to do.
Yeah.
Right. If they need me to play every day, if they need to be a part-timer, they want me to DH, whatever it might be, I'll fill that role. And that's what you want. You want somebody that's willing to do whatever they can to help the team. So, now again, that's a guy that's just searching for a job right now. I mean,
sure.
So, pity on anybody that comes in and says, well, if I'm not a starter, I don't want to play.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think Schilt would let that fly.
Yeah. But he's got some good pop, and that's the thing, all it takes is another Higashikawa. I mean, if you can get a couple of those kind of guys, Profar on the $1 million deal, I guarantee you, we were sitting here talking about it, and everybody and their brother was talking about, okay, well, Profar, we really need a real left fielder, but okay, for now, Profar's okay. Well, then he gets hot. Now everybody.
I think
I knew he was going to be great. I knew he was going to be.
I think I remember us saying he doesn't have to be the superstar.
Yeah,
he just has to be okay. He just has to be good, and he's decent defensively. And we didn't know about Merrill at the time. We had no clue about Merrill. So there were a lot of question marks going into the.
There's some luck for sure that everything kind of played out nice. Yeah,
but I think that like I said, again, what I said earlier, I missed Profar, but I wouldn't have paid him that much.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to point out too, and I will say this: the big three need to be the big three this year.
Yep. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
It's time. It's time for them to play full seasons.
Yeah.
It's time for them to be the guys that they were signed for those contracts.
Yep.
That's coming from Preller. Preller says, I need my superstars to be superstars, because they asked what it takes for the NL West. And he kind of giggled because well, there's, health. He said, but I need my superstars to be superstars.
Yep, exactly.
And he didn't name any names, but that. It's like Machado and Tatis and Bogarts have all put together solid seasons here and there. But we've yet to see what we thought we were going to see before 2 years ago. Yeah. When we had Soto still, we were like, oh man, if these four can put together the seasons,
And one didn't even make it.
Yeah. And so, that would go a long ways towards, I think, Padre fans getting off of Bogarts back, because I still think he's a good player. Is he worth the contract that he signed? Not yet. No. But we still got years left. He's only had 2, and
this is what I said last week.
He needs that season.
This is his season. He has to do it this season.
Yeah. But I say the same thing about Tatis. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to have that season. He's got to go back. You go back and look at his numbers from 2020, and it's like, holy crap, can we have that again?
Yeah,
21. Excuse me.
And he showed it during the playoffs, right? He like a 2,000 OPS or whatever.
But we need that all season.
Exactly.
And look, I know injuries happen, but geez, it's got to find a way to stay healthy. He's got.
Agreed.
Well, you look at the
Dodgers. He's past the surgery, so there, I think we all gave him a pass last year, and to me, he overperformed compared to where I thought he would after that, knowing it was going to be a full year. He's a very solid. But we need him to be back to where he is.
The Dodgers won because Ohtani was lights out. I mean, and then you had Betts and you had Freeman. Those guys produce.
They're superstars.
They played out. Well, and Teoscar Hernandez. They go on down the line, but if they don't produce like they did last year, I mean, there's question marks with that. I mean, on paper, the Dodgers look like the team to beat, but they got a lot of pitchers. We talked about this before, and I'm not wishing any injuries on anybody. Yeah. They got a lot of guys coming back from 2 Tommy John surgeries, and it's.
I like the perspective that was put to me, Jack, that the Dodgers are 23% favored to win the World Series this year. So that means 77% says that they're not going to win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Still got to play the games.
Got to play the games. Yeah. So when the playoffs happen,
while you play the game,
never know.
Play
never know.
All right. Well, on that note, let's wrap it up. If you'd like to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. We do these Thursday nights at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific Standard or Daylight Savings Time. Next week is the last show before spring training kicks off. Be sure to jump in and hang out with us. I don't know what other big news. Maybe it will be another signing. Maybe a trade. Who knows?
Yep.
You don't be too sure with Preller. And until next time, hasta luego. And goodbye.
All right, guys. Good night.
Arrivederci.